Are you going to be calling Don, or is he just going to check in when he's able?
Let me see. I think he's just going to check in. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
And I'll check on.
Okay, we're live, folks.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Welcome everybody to our Finance Committee meeting. Let's see, in attendance is Councilwoman Liz Mealy, myself, Randy Allison. Councilman Biter could not make it today at a previous commitment. We have John Sander, our city engineer, Mayor Slaughter, Teresa Sparacino from Delta Development, August Memme, our community development director, Janice Frank, our city clerk. We have Joe Pavlak, our finance department, and Peg Woodring, our city controller, is also listening. So we'll get moving right away here. We'll start with, we'll skip item 1, which will be an interview with Don Lundy as an appointment to the Redevelopment Authority. So we'll get back to that when he's able to get with us. So let's move to item 2, resolution approving change order number 1 for the Los Park Playground Improvement Project. And Mr. Memme, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Before you today is a resolution for a change order for Larson Design for the Los Park project. Due to the fact that we requested and council approved the rejection of all bids for the Los Park project, we went back to the drawing board and prepared another proposal for request for proposals for the construction of the project and for the coordination efforts, the additional coordination efforts. Larson Design has submitted a change order number 1 in the amount of $1,300. I believe, what memory serves me correctly, their original contracted price was about $32,300, something like that, in that neighborhood. So at the end of the day, we're looking at an additional $1,300 for that contract.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Memme. It's and I guess the bids were opened yesterday.
The second round of bids were opened yesterday. There were 3 bidders, which was 2 more than we had the last time.
Okay.
They have been provided to Larson Design to review and make sure that everything is correctly bid out, and they've met all the issue or all the requirements of the request for proposals, and they will also be submitted to the solicitor for their review. And it would be my goal to bring this to council at the meeting of the 28th.
28th, okay. Great. Thank you on that, Mr. Memme. I had one question. In the let me see where that is. Oh, in the proposal from Larson Design, there's a section that towards the end, right before the end, the project fees and the closeout there. The following is excluded from this proposal, and it's got a 5 bullet points there of things that are excluded. I assume there's nothing unusual in that group of exclusions.
As far as I was told, no, sir, that this was normal and typical of the type of contract that we engaged them for.
Okay. Not being familiar with all the ins and outs of contract documents, excuse me, I'm having a little throat issue today. I just, didn't want to assume that everything was the way it should be there unless, we had an indication otherwise. So,
Basically, from what I could read there, Mr. Allison, the fact that we're going on a site that was already a park, and
Okay.
all we're doing is changing out old equipment with new equipment and
Mhm.
making modifications.
right,
A lot of the pre-construction stuff has already been completed. We're not dealing with any major issues relevant to land development or any of those issues.
okay, so we can assume those are like boilerplate things.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't really have any questions. I like the design, and it's going to be a definite improvement to bring some of these, to add some needed aspects that are in this design and also improve what's already there. So I think that's all good. Councilwoman Mealy, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just skip. So it sounds like this is sort of an after the fact change order, correct? Larson's
Yes.
already completed the work included, or the majority of the work included in the change order fee.
This change order was to coordinate the rebidding and restructuring of the project to get us across the goal line, so to speak.
Got it. And what did we omit from the second bidding process to ideally bring, or how did the second bidding process change the specs to ideally bring us in within budget?
Well, to really get us back in the budget, we're probably going to come back to you in the 2022 action plan with additional funding to the project. There really wasn't anything we could omit. We looked everywhere but loose. The only thing that would get us close was taking out the pagoda or the shelter, and I arbitrarily just thought that wasn't a good idea.
Okay. So what you're saying is they rebid the project, but we didn't change the specs at all?
Relatively little change to the specs. We had to rebid the project. We used their system instead of pen bid this time. And
Got it.
we were able to solicit 3 bids, whereas on pen bid we had only gotten 1. The one bidder that did bid on pen bid did bid this time.
Okay.
And just in generalization, by going out and getting the additional bids, we somewhat confirmed that the total is pretty concise, or they're all 3 of them are within a reasonable dollar amount.
Got it. Okay. So that original single bid was reasonably close to what it should be costing, and we're not willing to budge on any of the elements of it. Okay. All right. Sounds good then. Thanks for the summary, Skip.
Thank
I
you.
think that's everything I needed to know, Randy.
Okay,
All right. Then as far as I'm concerned, we can move forward with the vote unless anybody else has any questions.
are there any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we forward this to the full body of council with positive recommendation.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll forward that to full body of council.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Memmy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move up, back up to item 1, appointment to the redevelopment authority. Mr. Don Lundy and Mayor Slaughter.
Yes, good afternoon, Councilman Allison, Councilwoman Mealy. What you have before you for your consideration, Mr. Don Lundy for appointment to the Redevelopment Authority. Obviously, I know, this is just for discussion purposes only, no action today. The action will be on Thursday. And this is just simply for a little introductory conversation with Mr. Lundy. He has joined us via phone as he is traveling. But Mr. Lundy is a longtime city resident, has done many, has been active and involved in various projects throughout the years, experienced in redevelopment and economic development, industrial as well, obviously, with his business. And so just very knowledgeable in this arena, and very fortunate to have Mr. Lundy put his name forward to join the Redevelopment Authority. I believe we are still in need of one other person for the RDA, and we're still actively exploring interested candidates. So if anybody has anyone that may be interested, please send them my way for that. But today we have Mr. Lundy, and like I said, he's on by phone for any questions you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Welcome, Mr. Lundy. Thank you for
Good
joining
afternoon.
in. Thank you for joining in today. Yeah, we just we had put in several years ago now this just kind of meet and greet with council and appointments to different commissions, authorities, and so forth, and just to get familiar with the people that are going to be on it. And thank you, first of all, for agreeing to serve on the authority. We consider it kind of we're doing kind of a revamping and getting it back up to speed in some ways, so it's going to be more interactive. So we'd just be interested to hear your thoughts on it, and whatever else you'd like to add.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I apologize. I only got the email yesterday on this time. But
Okay.
in short, Williamsport's the same as any of our industrial premises. It's all quite simple to the extent that you need to make these, whether it be an industrial building or a neighborhood in Williamsport, desirable to live in, to work in. Somewhere along the lines, that's a certain trick when there are no economic winds at your back. So whether we do it within the four walls of an industrial warehouse or in a neighborhood, the premise is all sort of the same. So that's what I bring. I also have a tremendous amount of knowledge from construction, from land development to new buildings, and that's about it.
Well, in a short and concise manner, you've really covered a lot of ground there. So, and I appreciate it. You are knowledgeable in all of that, and that's exactly the kind of people we're looking for to be on the authority. So it was we're thankful and grateful that the mayor's brought you forth. Yeah,
And I'll go one more forward here for Williamsport. Again, there's a tenant of mine called JPW Industrial Ovens. They're located on Route 14. Probably no one's really heard much of them now. We've gone from Plant 1 down to Plant 2. These guys now will have 40 to 50 employees. We're going up to 80,000 square feet. So again, it just takes a whole lot of running after individuals, tenants, whatever it may be. But I'm just telling you, if I didn't run after them, they'd still be there on Route 14, and it benefits all of us. So I'm telling you, right here at Williamsport, you have a company called JPW Industrial Ovens, and they're going to be a 100-employee company within the next 3 years.
wow.
I see the same for the rest of Williamsport, and that's just one. And that's only one tenant.
Right. Well, that's great news. That you're bringing a lot to the table today, so appreciate that. And you may have seen or read or heard from the mayor about we're dedicating ARPA funding towards this because, as you well know, that always helps to to facilitate and move some of these things forward, or if it's an unused or vacant blighted property, that all comes into play. But that seems to be all in your tool bag already. So it's great. You're ready to jump in and get the job done, and we're thankful for that. And that's exactly the kind of support you're going to have. Councilwoman Mealy, do you have any questions or comments?
I think most of my questions, Mr. Lundy, clearly you are qualified and your input will be very much appreciated on the redevelopment authority. Have you had discussions with the mayor about our sort of goals moving forward for the redevelopment authority?
Not necessarily.
Just that we, the city, as you know, received a fair amount of American Rescue Plan Act funding. And one of our hopes is to put, pardon me?
Yes, I'm familiar with the $23 million coming our way. I
Yep.
had conversations with Derek when it was first preliminary released at this point a year ago.
Yep, exactly. So one of our goals is to sort of set aside some of that funding to be utilized by the redevelopment authority to potentially acquire industrial, commercial and residential properties within the city that we want to specifically market. Or properties that are languishing under current circumstances, that we might be able to market best with if the city itself were marketing them. And I guess the reason that I ask is that I think if we make a plan for this funding and we commit it to the redevelopment authority and or to the land bank, which is linked to the redevelopment authority at this point, that will involve, I think, a larger time commitment on the part of the members of the redevelopment authority than than the time commitment that the redevelopment authority currently makes. But it also will involve a lot of really exciting projects. The potential to really be a game changer within the city, compared to, I think, the existing role of the redevelopment authority. But I think it's important to recognize the additional time commitment, also the possibility that you may, as a business owner in the city, find yourself occasionally conflicted on some issues facing the redevelopment authority. But I'm sure, all you have to do at that point is step out of, abstain from a given vote. That's not a problem. But it's just something to be aware of. Does that seem like an exciting prospect to you?
What we do every day. You got to run
All
after
right.
these things and run after things and run after these things. You can take New Trail Brewing. They went from, I was there again this morning with Dave and Charles. They went from 5,000 square feet. They're up to 70,000 square feet. They're going to be spending money. You just got to keep running and running and running after these people, time in, time out. If you ask somebody, is this a surprise? And they said yes, then they shouldn't be on this board, because this is exactly what you need to do, and you need to be pre-programmed for it, and you just need to run after them.
That's great to
All
hear.
the time.
That's awesome. Then my only other observation would be unrelated to you, Mr. Lundy, but I think more a point to make to the mayor, which is that, so Mr. Lundy is filling out James Graham's term. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, I believe that is the correct one.
Okay, and so we have one more spot that we're looking to fill on the authority as well.
Yes, there's another gentleman he's there, but he's going to be moving on in the very near future to do some traveling and other things. And so, yes, he asked that I bring it forward a replacement for him.
Great. I think that's exciting, and that's a good thing to happen. If someone is interested in stepping back, I'm glad that they're letting us know ahead. The reason that I ask is that I think at this point, then, out of 5 members, we will have 2 members with substantial business interests in the community. If I'm correct. And the reason I mentioned that is that I think probably that final member that we're looking to appoint, we should maybe try to find someone who is a little less likely to wind up with conflicts related to, their ownership within the city.
Sure.
So I think we're great to have 2 members, but it would be a shame not to have a quorum to vote on something.
Yeah.
So,
And then, yes, and along those same lines, or similar lines, I guess, I reached out to the Land Bank Network. They're going to provide a training since we've granted our Land Bank Authority powers to the RDA. So they are going to provide the authority members with a training. Once we have these
yeah.
new members in place to update them and what the land bank means and all of that. So not that it's really difficult, but just to bring them up to speed.
I think it is helpful, especially just to have everyone on the same page.
Right.
That, and thinking that of similar approaches, I think that would be exceptionally helpful. So great. All right, excellent. Then Mr. Lundy, we're delighted that you're willing to be involved in this board and that you're up to the time commitment and the new set of challenges that we're hopefully throwing at it. So thank you very much. And Randy, I think that's everything I have.
Okay.
Thanks.
Again, thank you as well, Mr. Lundy. This isn't something we vote on in committee. We vote as the council as a whole. So, but we'll be voting on this Thursday evening. And thank you for your time today. And we're looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the redevelopment authority and working with you on that.
Okay, I appreciate it. In about 2 seconds, I'll be out of cell service here
Okay.
one more time. And I am out of the office here on Thursday, so I won't be able to.
That's okay. Take care. Okay, let's move to item 3. Resolution awarding the Northwest Levee System Cross Pipe final design to Wood Engineering. Mr. Sander.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. So what you have before you is awarding final design services to Wood Engineering, final design, permitting, and bidding services to Wood Engineering for $66,500. I say final design because back in 2019, Wood themselves did the preliminary design as part of a grant package the city submitted for. I wasn't at the city then, obviously. The grant was not received. So long story short, they have about 70% of the total design work already done. So with this project, I advertised it on PennBid for about 3 weeks, actually. And I got 3 proposals. With the fact that Wood already has 60 to 70% of the work done, it was kind of a no-brainer to select them, because if not, we'd be giving it to someone new who has no idea, who wouldn't have all this information already ahead of time. So what are they doing? So they're designing cross pipes in the levee system, and I just show you what a cross pipe is, what we're talking about here. I do a little image here. That is our earthen levee. That's essentially what protects the city. This is the called Lycoming Creek or Susquehanna River, and this area here is the residential area. The cross pipes drain the residential area through from here through the cross pipe into the Susquehanna River or Lycoming Creek. Currently, we have 7 of them that are in unacceptable shape, according to the Army Corps, the engineers' yearly inspection reports, and actually Wood themselves actually had that determination as well. So, construction-wise, the cost estimate to repair these, and by repair, we'll actually be likely slip lining them. So essentially, you have a larger diameter pipe. Let's say a 3-foot diameter pipe. We'll be slip lining a smaller diameter, smaller and smoother diameter pipe to be able to take the capacity to strengthen the entire pipe system. This entire package of what I just explained to you and what you have before you was sent to UHY for ARPA compliance, and they had no issues. And I just spoke to them today actually on this. This would be ARPA funded, and let me know if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sander. And I might note that this is a high priority section of the dike to get done because of Reach Road and the the insurance factor for the businesses up there. So
Correct.
we do want to get this going as soon as we can. This is the first step. Now that it's a 66,500 lump
Mhm.
sum. So they already have the hours calculated, and is that correct?
That's correct. And just adding to that a little bit. So this is the most critical item in our levee system. The second most critical item is our, well, the county's taking care of the relief wells right now. They're coming in out
Mhm.
bids in about, I think, a week or two. The next most critical item is our pump stations. I currently have a proposal out right now online for repairing upgrading 3 out of our 9 pump stations to give them necessary upgrades they need to get more modern, basically. So
Right.
that's got to run for a little while. That one's a little more complex. So we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. So
And we are coordinating this with the Army Corps. We are keeping the colonel abreast on all of these items related to
Mhm.
the levy, so that her and her team are aware of what us in the county are doing. And she did give us back in the fall, in the most recent meeting in January, to go ahead and repair the deficiencies that you're aware of while they're simultaneously doing their risk
Right.
analysis.
Now, the timeline for this, what they have laid out is an initial kickoff meeting, the 18th of April, and then they have different dates to hit certain things. But final contract, technical bid documents to be delivered on or before August 1st. But it does state in there, there's a chance that time can be condensed. Is that something on our end or something from their end?
I believe that's driven, like, before I speak, I'm on the spot you're talking about.
Okay.
It's likely driven by the permitting requirements to Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. But I don't know that. I don't know that with absolute certainty. I did speak to Wood this morning. They are well staffed and they can hop right on this. So it'll
Okay. Great.
it's something that we need to get done. And
Yeah.
obviously we have the ARPA funds now to do it, so we're doing it. Or let's put it this way: if it gets passed, we'll do it.
So everybody that's going to be involved in this current process here is aware of the critical nature of this project, I assume then. And they should be in on the kickoff meeting, I would think, right? Will DEP be in on that? And
I would certainly anticipate it, yes.
okay,
But I'll let obviously the project will be awarded to, private entity Wood. I'll let them drive the
right.
bus in regards to that. I mean,
Yeah.
if I need to step in, I would,
Okay.
Yep.
Great. I don't think, yeah. Okay. Councilwoman Amelia, do you have any questions or comments?
Randy, I think you covered that exceptionally well. And John, as long as you tell me that we didn't need that according to UHY, we did not need to bid this out for any reason, that to RFP it instead of just going with
we
Wood.
did. We did actually. We had.
Oh, we RFP'd it?
Yep. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, so
Oh.
advertised for 3 weeks and we got 3 proposals on it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Wood came in, I'm assuming, both price wise and in terms of length of time to finish the project in a pretty good position, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. Yeah, because that would be my assumption. Anyway, okay. All right. Well, that was all I needed to know then. And if you covered that, John, I'm sorry, I was distracted for a moment. So, but okay. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see us actually accomplishing some work on the levee. It's much needed, and that'll be a huge difference. I think a huge load off all of our minds. So thanks, John.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have, Randy.
I guess I only had one other, thanks, Liz. I only had one other question. It looks like all the cross pipes are not all the same diameter. They're different sizes then. So,
Correct.
okay.
They're different sizes, vary depending on the drainage area that they drain within the city. So we have some cross pipes that are as small as I think less than a foot. We have some that are as large as 3 or 4 foot, 5 foot
Mhm.
diameter pipes. So they vary. And there's about 60 of them on the Williamsport levee system.
Yeah.
Yep.
Quite a few. Okay, well, great. If there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we forward this to the full body of council with a positive recommendation.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that motion is passed to the full body of council. Thank you, Mr. Sander. Let's move to item 4, resolution committing local match funding for DCNR C2P2 grant for the city of Williamsport.
Yep,
And-
good afternoon. Oh, sorry, Randy. Go
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Sander.
All right. So
Oh,
yes,
Mayor.
yeah, that's fine. Good afternoon again, Councilman Allison and Councilman Mealy. Yes, what you have before you is a resolution committing a local match for our DCNR C2P2 grant, which is for city's comprehensive recreation park, open space, and green infrastructure plan update to our comp plan, which we have been talking about both during our ARPA meetings and some of our regular city council meetings for quite some time now.
Mhm.
We've had meetings with DCNR and some of our DCNR project, or some of the projects we're looking at. DCNR said, if you update your comp plan, and particularly to include green infrastructure, we could potentially open ourselves up for additional grant funding. And so we started that process with DCNR a while ago now. We brought Teresa in from Delta to assist us with this grant application. And as always, they've done a fantastic job. And this is sort of step 1, obviously applying for the grant. And then the local match, if we're fortunate enough to get the grant of $75,000, which again would fall within the guidelines of ARPA, or if by then we have some other funding mechanisms, we could look at that as well. But that's, we don't get the cart in front of the horse. Hopefully we're able to get the grant first, but we do have funding available if we do. Now I'll turn it over to Teresa because I know she can add additional context to this. So, thank you.
Hi,
Thank you,
Teresa.
Mayor. Good afternoon.
Welcome.
The application was previously submitted. DCNR typically funds the projects in the late fall of each year, with grant agreements being issued in the first quarter of 2023. So after the process, there are a number of components as part of this comprehensive plan. It does include connectivity, it includes green infrastructure. So they'll be looking at ways to connect neighborhoods into the park system, looking at possible bike paths, pedestrian paths, and then some of the other upgrades that are needed to the existing outdoor recreation areas.
For reference, I believe, and Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, Harrisburg, I believe DCNR said once they had their comp plan in place, they were able to upgrade and improve, I believe, 5 parks within 18 months. And so once we have an updated comp plan in place, that's clearly what the state likes to see, and various agencies across the state. So DCNR, not only DCNR, but DCD and others. The Deputy Secretary of DCD said that a few weeks ago when he was here, that this looks great and being able to coordinate across agencies. And so, yeah, the point being though that the process really can get moving along fairly quickly once we get all these pieces in place, and DCNR would have to, of course, be in favor of our update to our comp plan, but it really helps once this comp plan is in place.
Yeah. That sounds great. It's an exciting opportunity. Very positive. Councilwoman Mealy, did you have any questions?
No, not particularly on this item, of course. I
Yeah.
will have many ideas and or questions if we receive the grant and we move forward
Yeah.
with the comprehensive plan process.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry, one of my kids is playing in the car. But you know, I'm excited to see us moving
Yeah.
forward. And Derek, you said we were encouraged by DCNR to complete this grant application, correct?
We were, yes. DCNR
Which-
came up in, I believe, January, Teresa, somewhere in there. They've been up a few times. They've been up to Williamsport a few times. They were very encouraged to see some of the projects, both that we have completed over the last few years, the ones that we have ongoing, and the ones that we were discussing with them that we're looking at for the future. And so they literally said, as they were looking around the state, they, you know, when they fund projects, they like to see them be completed. They like to see the administration and councils working together. And so they did encourage us to apply. Of course, obviously, they clearly can't guarantee anything, but you know, they're looking at what we had going on. They strongly suggested that we update our comp plan given what they were hearing and what we presented on the various projects in Williamsport.
Excellent. I guess that my question mainly was related to whether or not that meant we were likely to receive the funding, and it sounds like that's we're as likely as we could possibly expect to be at this juncture. So I'm pleased to hear it, because I think I would agree with GCNR that this is something that we desperately need in Williamsport, and particularly I think in years past when we've looked at comprehensive planning for the parks, the green infrastructure element has not really been a component that we prioritized, but I think that it absolutely is a component that we need to look at. You know, as we more and more read about things like food deserts within cities, and Williamsport has its share of those. You know, I think recreational deserts are also an important component. We need to make it as easy as possible for people within the community to get to the city's recreational assets and frankly to the recreational assets within the region. So I'm excited to see that be a component of the comprehensive plan this time around. Thanks, Derek, and thanks, Randy.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, good comments, Liz. And yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, we're not risking anything in applying for this, but it's nice to know we're on the radar. I think probably the things we've done at Brandon Park and Memorial Park have shown that we're willing to make that investment and improve things. So this would add into that. So
Right, and the secretary of DCNR was here last summer, Councilman Allison, as you probably remember, with when we were identifying the tree species and all of that whole project.
yeah,
So she was able to come through, and she saw, of course, the other projects we had ongoing, and you know, the other projects we have completed in Brandon as well. So so they've been here. So DCNR has been here and they're familiar, and they brought up the green infrastructure. DCNR, you know, they're committed and want to see some green infrastructure as well. So we were talking about it, and that's been a focal point for them as well. So
that's great. Okay, thank you. Thank both of you. I'll entertain a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion that we pass this on to the full body of council for positive recommendation.
Thank you, Liz. And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, motion passes 2-0 to the full body of council. Thank you, Teresa.
Oh, you're
for
welcome.
your help and assistance.
yes, thank you.
And thanks, Mayor Slaughter. Okay, and we'll go to item 5. Reading of bids for the Shaw Park Splash Pad project. James Frank and John Sander.
Yes, I'll let Ms. Frank go ahead and read the bids.
Okay, I wasn't present for these, but I think these were pen bid. It was land serve for $328,800. Daniel Terrier and Sons for $388,800, and Pine Ridge Construction Management $569,439.
Okay, could you read those again, please, Mrs. Frank? The amounts,
Oh, land serve, $328,800.
okay,
Daniel Terrier and Sons, $388,800. Pine Ridge Construction Management LLC, $569,439.
okay, thank you. And we're of course not voting or commenting on those. Those were just open. We're making, having public reading of those, and they're, I would assume, Mr. Stander, they're going under the same process that all bids do. Make sure that they've hit the specs and requirements and all those kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
So there's no more voting or commenting on that. Thank you, Mr. Sander, and thank you, Janice Frank. Okay, we'll move to item 6, any related items. And I don't think we have any today. So I'll entertain a motion for adjournment,
So move.
and I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the meeting concluded. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you Thursday.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for doing all the heavy lifting, especially.
It wasn't too heavy today, Liz. So.
It's true. Could have been worse. Could have been worse. All right. All right.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. See you Thursday.